Hello, everyone. This is Nick Bover from CE Pro, and I hope you're all excited to learn a little bit more about landscape lighting with our guest, Ryan Jaso, the Lighting Boss. If you're not familiar with Lighting Boss, they are an amazing company to get you started on your lighting journey with plenty of products, software, and insight to either help grow your lighting business or just help get it off the ground. So without further ado, thank you for joining us today. And I guess I should also be thanking, Lighting Boss for bringing us together once again by sponsoring this talk.
Yeah, that was a great intro. I appreciate that, Nick. Happy to be here.
So I guess, we'll be able to talk about a little bit in more detail what it is exactly that Lighting Boss brings to the table as we get later on into this discussion. But one of the things that I wanted to address first was last month, Lighting Boss had announced that they had acquired Cascade Lighting. And so before we get started, I just kind of wanted to ask, how that's been going for you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking the question. It's been good. I'm not gonna lie, it's a challenge, acquiring a company 1,000 miles away, where you can't be there day in, day out to, kind of set the tone and change the culture the way that you'd like to. But we were blessed with acquiring a great team already in place. So it's been great, but yeah, I let's just say I'm not in a big rush to go out and acquire somebody else right now. There's work that has to be done here first. Certainly we are going to look at other areas of expansion. But we're in a good place. We picked up a lot of great team members, a lot of great lines. So very happy it's going really well. I appreciate you asking.
Nice. Yeah, no problem. It's always exciting to see companies be able to grow outside of their original areas, either, their category, their product categories, or just branching off into new regions of the United States.
Yeah, and I would be curious to know how the whole process would be different if we acquired somebody locally. It was just a local competitor. I'm maybe we'll go down that route next time where it's a little easier to be on site. But there are only so much of us, who do what we do in the country, who specialize in landscape lighting, and that's what we do. Those are just the products we supply, and we're experts in it. So there's only half a dozen of us in the country, so you can't just pick and choose as to who you're going to acquire. This was a no-brainer for us, but the options are limited, so it's not like I can go down the street, knock on someone's door and say, hey, you for sale.
Right. So I guess jumping right into it, you and I had a chance to kind of talk a little bit beforehand. But one of the things that you were telling me that you hear people ask all the time is, how can integrators start a conversation with the homeowner on landscape lighting?
Yeah, it's interesting. We just started a partnership with Phoenix Marketing, and they mentioned, they're a great company, by the way, and they mentioned that they start project conversations with lighting. They start it with lighting. Now, usually that conversation is interior lighting. So what's the plan for the interior lighting? How are you going to control it? And then once you get into the control of interior lighting, now it's so easy to ask the question, okay, how are we going to control your exterior lighting? Oh, well, so most people talk about the few sconce lights that they have. Well, let's put it on the same system. Then you can say, okay, well, how about the landscape lighting? We didn't think about the landscape lighting. What do you mean? Tell us more. That's just the perfect way. If I'm controlling lighting on the interior, it's so easy for me to ask how I'm controlling lighting on the exterior and then broaching the subject that way. It's such an easy end.
Now, as a kind of a follow-up to that, do integrators need to hire this dedicated team to focus on lighting to get started? Or are they able to just kind of pick projects, kind of start small, and then gradually build that expertise with the crew that they already have?
That's a good question. And there's no perfect answer to that question. Absolutely, you can start small, but some of the projects that you get involved with may not allow you to start small. If you're automating, a $30 million home, chances are you're going to be looking at $250,000 in landscape lighting. So that project may not give you the ability to just like slowly wade into the water. So in that instance, there are a couple of ways to go about it. One, you can work with a company like ours, right? So we can help you design, we can help training on the install. We do have team members who can fly out to projects. Same thing with Phoenix Marketing Group, who we're working with. They can provide that type of consultation too. But the other route is, remember, there's money to be made just bringing the subject up and then passing it off to a designer too. Somebody who's already doing landscape lighting. Hey, here's a project that I have in my hand. There's going to be a referral fee for us to hand this over. But that's another great way to get into it and then learn from them. Now I'm learning from how they're doing it. And then I can decide, all right, do I want to continue on with this referral relationship, making X amount of dollars, or with what I've learned, do I want to start building my team and start doing this on our own? There's no right or wrong. There are multiple options, a lot of different ways to make money and be profitable. I guess it just depends on your company goals.
All right. And so I guess moving back to what we were talking about with, broaching that initial conversation, there is so much you can say, like, to get somebody to just say that it's like, oh, we can put in landscape lighting. There's only so much you can say to get them to just think it's like, oh yeah, I guess we could put some lights back there. But what are some of the values you think people can highlight in order to really showcase, just how much of a difference landscape lighting makes?
It's aesthetics, functionality, and security. I mean, those three things are what people hammer home, and they do it in different ways. I'll say this: having a portfolio goes a long way. It goes a long way showing people a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you've done a fantastic project that looks somewhat similar to this current prospect's home or property, having high resolution professional photographs taken in a lookbook is a fantastic way just to get that message across. And I'm not saying that our audience does this, but I see so many people just taking out their phone and trying to take pictures in low light while they're moving around. No tripods. Don't get me wrong, phones take great pictures nowadays. But it's really to be left up to a professional to put together a professional portfolio for you. And then all of a sudden they start selling you. You don't have to sell them. Once they see your work and how fantastic it is, they're selling you on the fact that you should be doing their project.
Yeah, I will say, working through, I go through a lot of projects on CE Pro, and getting a chance to look at all the different lighting projects. Those are always just a treat, because like you say, they can be so visually impressive, especially when you have a photographer that knows how to take pictures, take special pictures of them at night, really makes everything pop.
Yeah, and a couple of the associations I'm involved with actually do a great job of teaching that too, because not every photographer knows how to take pictures at night. They don't. So ILI, International Landscape Lighting Institute, and AOLP both have courses or seminars that can be taken on photography. And even if you're not the one doing the photography, you can kind of give the photographer a general idea of this is how it should look and let them figure out how to make it happen.
Nice. Now, another question that you also mentioned that you hear get asked a lot is, what is it? Oh yeah, what does an integrator need to know about full color control and automation?
That's another good one. and the reason it's a good one is because it seems like so many people want to start with that. They want to start with, how do I control every single light here and make it turn red at this time and green at this time and dim 40% at this time. And the fact is that is maybe 3 to 5% of projects out there. I don't see anything wrong with leading with your best. If you're going into a presentation, I like that you go in and lead with your best, but understanding that still, if you do it right with warm whites, with using depth, with using dimension, just a couple of different hues in your 27 in your Kelvin temperatures, so your 2700s, your 3000s, maybe 4500s for downlighting. You don't need to control everything. You set it, you forget it, and you walk away, and your client will be happy forever as long as the project is maintained. But there's some great color options out there. I just wouldn't get too wrapped up in it and think that, no, this is what we have to be doing. You don't have to be doing it because 3 to 5% of the projects are going to call for it and demand it. That's about it.
Putting the cart before the horse, basically. In a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the other thing, and this is a question that I see crop up a lot, and it was something that I saw when we were doing our webinar on landscape lighting, which if anybody is still interested in landscape lighting after this, they should totally go check it out on cepro.com. I think we still have the recording up for that. But one of the questions that I saw during that, and we unfortunately did not have enough time to answer it, was dark sky compliance. It's something that's like, you might not, you and I were talking about it, you might not see it all the time, but considering we have guys that are doing these jobs out in like pristine mountain environments, those are kind of the locations where it might come up.
Yeah. So same with full color control. It's going to crop up just a small percentage of the time, but it is going to crop up depending on the part of the country you're in. In Florida, nobody cares about dark sky. Not that I know. It's the wild, wild west here. Same thing in Texas. You're not going to hear about dark sky in Texas. But I see some pretty strict rules in California, in certain areas of California, as we mentioned, mountain towns. And darksky.org is a good website to go to just to get a better understanding of it. It's honestly, it's pretty simple. We're going to focus more light down than we are up, because that's natural light. Moonlighting is natural light. So we're gonna probably do 100% of the project with downlighting, whereas your typical project may be 80% uplighting and 20% downlighting. Well, in dark sky, it's probably going to be 100% downlighting. Then there also have some color temperature concerns. Dark sky compliant, I believe, likes to see some warmer color temperatures, 2700, 3000 K. I believe they want to avoid those harsh whites. And then lumen output. They dark sky compliant communities are looking for softer. And honestly, as lighting designers, we should be looking for softer too. Like, we should be doing a lot of things that dark sky is all about. Responsible landscape lighting is everything. This is not about taking floodlights and blasting the whole neighborhood. It's not what this is about. It's about being responsible in our designs with more light sources, but lower lumen outputs, accessories to control glare and hit focal points. Not about just flooding areas. That is terrible lighting design, terrible practice. Also, we make a lot more money selling more light sources too. So there's an extra benefit in that. So dark sky, even if you're in dark sky communities, there's still money to be made, and good money. So don't shy away from it just because somebody says dark sky. You can still do a project, do a great job.
Yeah. So I guess moving out of the regulatory side, you had also mentioned that integrators can use landscape lighting to create a recurring revenue stream for themselves. And whenever I hear something like that, I always get really interested, because I'm always kind of curious as to how people, set up those types of models. So if you would care to explain a little bit more, I'm sure everybody would be willing to listen.
Yeah, and that's the downside to the current business model that I see with AV integration, is that there's not recurring revenue. You're just going project to project. Whereas with landscape lighting, anything you do outdoors, even with outdoor audio, right? I mean, those speakers are going to have to be cleaned. This is rain falls, trees grow, leaves fall, there's snow, there's hail, there's floods. Outdoor projects need to be maintained, and clients want them to be maintained. They want these projects to look the same 10 years from now as they did the day that it was installed. And if you do not maintain, if you don't clean the lenses on your landscape lighting fixtures, if you don't trim the hedges around them, if you don't straighten them from time to time, the projects are just going to slowly degrade until it looks horrible. And now you can't even point to that home that you did because it looks terrible. And now we can't use that as a referral source. The clients are pissed off because you didn't even offer any type of maintenance plan. So setting up a maintenance plan, a trailer where I've got, some WD-40, some Windex, some rags, some Phillips head screwdrivers, then a couple of lamps, depending on what fixtures I used. A couple of fixtures, couple of lamps. This isn't something that you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be prepared for. But clients will appreciate the fact that you offer ongoing maintenance to keep everything outdoors looking good. And this isn't, we're in the age of LED. It's not about just changing out old halogen lamps every 6 months anymore. Your LED might last you 10 years, but still that LED is going to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer if you're not cleaning those lenses, if you're not cleaning the brush off of it or pulling back the hedges or whatever it is. So just setting up where you're going out twice a year, charging 20, 30 bucks a fixture to maintain it is a great way to build some recurring revenue. And actually, if you're going to sell your company later on down the road, it gives you something to sell now rather than just a phone number and a website.
Because you got to figure if you're doing like hundreds of fixtures on each project, that like $20 or $30 per fixture really adds up fast.
Yes, it sure does. It sure does.
So in the other question that I had, and this is something that we have the lighting deep dive going on right now with CE Pro. And one of the things that gets talked about in it is, making friends with your electrician. But I was curious about, that's all interior lighting. With the exterior lighting, there are usually any trades that you interact with on those types of projects, or are you just usually left to yourself on those?
Landscape lighting is typically the last thing that goes in. It's the last. So the interaction with other trades is minimized. But I'm having to worry about irrigation pipes, right? Nobody buries those to code anymore, from what I can tell. So, I don't want to destroy that. How is the home being controlled, right? Usually this audience, they are controlling the home. But if it were a different audience, they would have to connect with the integrator. So that's another trade you'd have to connect with. For the most part, you say the irrigator, the landscaper, who is going to be maintaining the landscape to make sure that they understand where we've got fixtures, where we've got wire, because who knows, maybe they're doing annuals every month or two, and they're digging up mulch beds. They have to know what to be prepared for so that you're not constantly having to go out and service. And it's something that you really can't charge the client for because, it's happening every month. You're going to hit the client with a bill every month. No, let's make sure the landscapers know where the wiring is, or let's protect our wiring and conduit in those areas. So having that conversation up front is key with the landscapers and the irrigators too.
All right. And so, we're kind of closing in on the end of our discussion here. But obviously, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, I kind of glossed over it in the beginning just to kind of get introductions out of the way. But what does a company like Lighting Boss bring to the table when it comes to assisting integrators on lighting projects?
There's so much. This is it's conversations like this. It's conversations like this and understanding that everything that goes into a lighting project and everything you have to be prepared for, this is what our team brings to the table. I mean, obviously, the way that I'm able to afford having 250 years of experience on my 20-person team, which is crazy that we have that much experience on a smallish team. But the way that I'm able to afford that is by selling products. That's how we do it. But ultimately, we are there as a consultant to help you get through these projects, to guide you through, to make sure that it goes smoothly, to make sure that you're making enough money, to make sure that you're not pissing anybody off with the design, excuse my French. But just to help, I won't say hand-holding, because most people after a couple of projects, the hand-holding is done. But we can be there as a guide, not to just provide good products at good pricing in a timely manner, but to go over and help walk you through all the challenges that are going to arise. Because with every project, there's going to be a new challenge. That's what we're here for.
Nice.
And I'm lucky, as I mentioned before, that there are only a handful of us in the country who really do this and specialize it. There are a lot of people who sell landscape lighting projects. Very few companies that actually specialize in it. So
Yeah.
we have been a great resource for a lot of contractors, integrators, designers for the past 15 years, and hopefully we'll be doing it for the next 150.
Yeah, no, here's hoping.
Well, until Elon Musk creates some type of landscape light that just magically installs itself and
just sprout. You just plant a few seeds and it sprouts up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to be out at that point in time. I'd say we've got a pretty long runway.
Yeah. So before we go, I usually like to have, an opportunity for guests to give a few words of wisdom at the ends of these discussions. And for you, I have this one. The integrator is ready for their first project. They have the pitch, they have the know-how. What is your advice for them when it comes to actually finding that inaugural project, like picking the project that is right for them to get started on? What is the profile of a good starter project for somebody?
I'm going to tell you right now, they're all good prospects. The first project, take it. The first thing that comes to you, take it, because you're going to learn so much from it. Now, the second and third projects are different animals. So I think a better question might be is, what does it look like down the road? We'll say when we're 6 months, a year in, and we've gotten experience under our belt and we understand, okay, what's the clientele that we're looking for? What are the projects that we're looking for? Well, obviously the answer is this: we want big projects to add to our portfolio, because that just turns to a snowball. But we also want to make sure that the client isn't a pain in the what, right? And they'll already know that dealing with them on the interior side. So we want to make sure that we set proper expectations with the client so that they don't become a pain. That's key to this, is making sure that you're not over promising and under delivering. And a lot of that just comes with experience. So I wish I could give you maybe an answer that people wanted to hear with the first project, but the first few projects is just about getting your hands dirty, getting an understanding of some of the pros and cons. And then you can go ahead and take that information and really start to build out, who is my ideal client? What is my ideal project? And then go from there. Now you're able to pick and choose the projects that you want. Usually those are the ones that are the most profitable, and add to more projects. If you're doing something for a recluse who lives 100 miles away from civilization, that project may not lead to more projects. But if you're in a high profile neighborhood with a client who likes to talk a lot, fantastic. Let's go get them.
All right. No, I like that answer. Learn by experience, basically.
There you go. That's all I got for you.
Well, Ryan, thank you once again for coming on. I hope you have a wonderful day. And, again, anybody that listened to this conversation and wants to hear more about landscape lighting, highly recommend checking out the recent webinar we did with Lighting Boss and a few others over on cepro.com.
Appreciate the time, Nick.